And hello, my name is Nolan Wheeler. I am the owner of Noble Naturopathics. I am a traditional naturopath in Michigan, and you are on my YouTube channel here. And today we're just going over some different things that I think everyone should know, just some free information for everyone to start applying to their lives just to make things a little bit easier. And what we're covering today is a foundation to health and things that people need to get down before that they go out and start taking action on things because they will not respond well to certain treatments, therapies, vitamins, supplements if they don't have these foundations down. So when we get the understanding of seasonal living today, it makes things a lot easier and it just helps activate our body's self-healing abilities more efficiently. We're covering some interesting subjects. We're going over hormones today, some of the master hormones I consider. So, leptin, melatonin, cortisol. We're not really going over sex hormones, but they will be mentioned a few times. We're talking about some of the chemistry in the brain and how some of these hormones fluctuate. We're talking about circadian rhythms, the body's rhythms. Then we're also talking about a couple of my foundations to health. So, herbs and using light therapy, light as medicine, food as medicine, seasonal supplementation, seasonal rotation of diet and lifestyle changes. So I'm going to lay down the foundation. We are biological humans. So we are constantly going through a cycle. That's what that means. It's the study of life, chronobiology, that's always kind of reoccurring and changing. So we're always going through different sequences and rhythms. Okay, and that's even without the external influences. So everything around us, we have light, we've got diet, we've got our jobs that we go to, whatever it is that you do on a daily basis, things that you're exposed to, things that you do, your body's always going to be changing and having different rhythms based on some of those different things. Okay. We're going to talk about the 24-hour cycle here mainly, and that's known as the 24-hour circadian rhythm. Okay, so sleeping at night, being awake in the middle of the day, that's an example of a circadian rhythm related to light. I'm going to go over the other rhythms too so you don't get them confused. Breaking down circadian rhythm a little bit more, again, 24-hour process, it's constantly repeating in a 24-hour cycle, and it's what regulates our sleep cycle and our awake cycle. So a couple hours of the day we're sleeping, and then half of the day we're up and we're at them, we're moving around, doing things, using our bodies, using our brains, etc. This is also just referred to as the body's internal clock. So it's in charge of the physiological processes, sleep, body temperature, hormone fluctuations, and the best demonstration I can put out there is a chart like this, because it's just talking about how you've got the morning when the sun rises, you've got the afternoon, the solar noon here, you've got the evening, and then you've got midnight. Um, just a short summary would be here. Beginning of the day begins, melatonin production stops, the thing that put us to sleep. Blood pressure is going to be at its highest in the morning. Testosterone, sex hormones start to rise at the beginning of the day. Alertness starts to begin. Cognitive function is most optimal in the morning hours, 10 to 12, 1 p.m. All right, so it just kind of is always fluctuating. The greatest cardiovascular and muscle strength, so like strength training can be a little bit more in the evening. If we're looking at like when the sun starts to rise, it just tells you where the peak level is for blood pressure, and then also highest body temperature rate. That starts to get us ready for bed. Melatonin begins, melatonin secretion, and that's what puts us to sleep. So that's just like a little quick, brief summary of a 24-hour cycle there on how that works. And those things are basically triggered on light, is that's what we're going to be talking about today. Food and different signals in the body, circadian signals. The ultradian rhythm. This is something I don't want anyone to get confused with the 24-hour cycle. So this is more of a cycle that happens within the 24-hour span. So it could be like a few hour cycle. It could be like within the half hour. It could be within like a minute. So when the heart rises, like heart rate rises, when the blood pressures are going up and down, constant fluctuation of high peak performance in certain activities, and then a little bit of a decline in a certain activity, and then again more of a rise in that activity. So that could be, as I wrote over here, the blink rate, the heartbeat, digestion, so kind of activating our bowels a couple times throughout the day. Digestion gets activated every time we eat. The enzymes to break down the food get activated whenever we eat. ATP, so adenosine triphosphate, the thing that keeps us moving in the gym or when we're working on a 5K, whatever that may be. That's our energy stores. It's always going to be constantly going up, using up all of our ATP, and then down. We're out of ATP. It's going to replenish, recovery, and then the ATP rises again. So that's a little shorter cycle. It's not a 24-hour span. And then the infradian, that is a little bit longer than a 24-hour cycle. So these are just different patterns that humans and living things do. For example, an infradian rhythm could be like a women's menstrual cycle, which takes place within about four weeks approximately if you're healthy. So 28, 30 days is a healthy menstrual cycle. Hibernation, that would be an animal that eats a bunch of carbs and vegetables and fats and proteins and stores up extra fat and blubber for the winter time, and then it just sleeps for 3-4 months out of the year, and then comes out of hibernation, and they're again mating, trekking around, Yellowstone National Park, and then they just repeat that cycle again. So that's a little bit longer of a rhythm. It's more of a yearly cycle. Seasonal affective disorder, same thing with humans. We go into different states of happiness, and then kind of more of like a sadness, depressive state due to the lack of sunlight, vitamin D. I've got my second opinions on this one, but that is a cycle that happens for most Americans or anyone who lives in a high latitude environment around the world. So circadian rhythms, what is the main signal behind it? What drives it? We're going to be talking about it a lot. Again, light. Light is the biggest circadian signal, okay? I'm going to break down how that works and why you need to go out and get light on your skin and also in the eyes. So just the basic interpretation here. Light enters the eye through the cornea, passes through the lens, and then it goes to the back of the eye, the retina. So we're looking at the light here, whether that's sunlight or artificial light, whatever that may be, passes through this cornea layer here, and then it's going to drive through more of the deeper part of the eye, so the lens. Then it penetrates to the back of the retina, and then there's a bunch of photoreceptors in the back of the retina, which are the rods, the cones. So rods are the low light. It's taking in low amount of light. And then also the cones, that's more of a interpretation of the colors. So red light, green, blue light, the different things, UVs, different rays, those are interpreted by those photoreceptor cells. And they call it the IPRGC. So there's a long terminology for that, but you just refer to it as that. And the IPRGCs, they contain a photopigment, and that's called the melanopsin. So the melanopsin is the key player here. That's the main thing I would think everyone would want to remember. I mean, you don't need to know the whole anatomy of the eye, the cones, and the rods, and how that all works. It's just a little bit of a basic overview. But the melanopsin, that is most sensitive to blue light, in really any of the visible color spectrum. And melanopsin, that's found in the skin, it's found in the eyes, of course, as you can see in this image. It's found in the brain, the skin, blood vessels, lungs, adipose, fat tissue. Everywhere in your body has melanopsin. It has light receptors. So it's a story about light. Light on circadian rhythm, again, so it's a Zeitgeber. What that is saying, it's a time cue. So it helps synchronize the body's internal clock with the external environment. So with the 24-hour circadian rhythms, like we broke down, that's all dependent on the external environment, so the light around us. The suprachiasmatic nucleus, that is located in the hypothalamus, that's the master clock of the body that receives the input from those photoreceptors, as we talked about. And that's what's going to release melatonin, help us with a proper fluctuation of our cortisol, sex hormones throughout the day. And that's something that you do need to kind of remember, the suprachiasmatic nucleus. There's the eye image, went to the back of the retina, suprachiasmatic nucleus signals to the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus then goes on to the pineal gland downstream, and that produces that melatonin. My piece of advice for everyone here is understanding, you need to understand how light works, how that influences proper melatonin, and then cortisol, and then all the other downstream hormones throughout the day. So my claim to fame here is just my piece of advice for everyone is getting first morning light within the first 30 minutes upon arising. Getting natural, non-man-made light into the eyes is going to be best. So the red light in the morning, the infrared light, that is not, those colors are not typically on the visible color spectrum. The infrared isn't. Red light, that is present when the sun is rising in the morning. That is one of those big key circadian signals that we do need to go outside and look at to have a healthy 24-hour cycle. So anywhere from sunrise or as soon as you wake up, that's what I recommend, is getting outside, even just for a few minutes, whether that's 2 minutes up to 10 minutes. That can be super beneficial for your health, getting that first morning signal. Because what you're doing at the beginning of the day is going to ultimately trigger that 24-hour clock we talked about on the first few slides, and then that's going to help you secrete the evening hormones too. It's all dependent on the morning. So the morning light exposure will advance the circadian phase, promoting the alertness, better mood. Evening light exposure does the opposite effect. So what the evening light will do is it kind of tricks your body into thinking it's the middle of the day, it's time to get up, it's time to go. Cortisol starts to rise. That's not what we want, because cortisol is going to block the melatonin production. So that's a huge reason why people have an issue falling asleep, because they're exposed to the wrong color spectrums past the sun setting. The rhythms are really important, so I'm going to go over a bunch of these. I mean, I could sit here all day and break this down, but just take a moment, pause it, read it, whatever you think is best. But the circadian rhythms are going to balance the body temperature. They're going to help with the downstream sex hormones, so the cortisol, melatonin, growth hormone, the thing that helps you grow muscle and makes you into a bigger, stronger you, especially when you were in our puberty years. That's all dependent on circadian rhythm, appetite, digestion, sleep schedules, so having that constant wake up time every single day and then falling asleep at certain times every day. Those are the natural regular sleep schedules. Those are depicted on the rhythms. Genetics can be influenced by light. That's a huge story out there most people don't know about. That's for a separate video, but light can activate or turn off dirty genes. And if we're getting the wrong light, it will activate bad genes. If we get the good, healthy light, it actually puts some of those dirty genes into remission. You don't have to worry about them, along with many other things. Metabolism, that's also influenced by our rhythms, so the glucose response, lipid metabolism, cardiovascular function, the immune system, cell repair regeneration, that's also huge. Musculoskeletal health, also huge. So bone density, bone formation, you get it. And cognitive function, kind of talked about it there in the beginning, but seasonal affective disorder can be determined by light patterns as well as our cognitive performance function at certain times throughout the day. Usually our peak performance is going to be in the later morning hours up until midway through the afternoon. Disruption and health consequences also can be determined by light. So jet lag, that can be an issue, or nighttime shifts, so the third shift in the evening, that can also mess up the circadian rhythm and increases your risk of getting more health concerns down the line. And this is not medical advice, but this is just documented literature. So sleep issues, metabolic disorders, cancers can be determined by light. Master hormones, cortisol, melatonin. Those are the two that are really, really important. And then there's a third hormone most people don't talk about, which is leptin. Cortisol, that's the wake up, get up, go type hormone. That's what starts here at the beginning of the day. So if we're looking at like 6 in the morning to 9 a.m., starts to really, really skyrocket there and rise. So that is a wake up hormone, along with many other things I'll get into. Melatonin, another amazing hormone, it's an antioxidant hormone, and it's master antioxidant. And then melatonin, that's going to be highest in the evening. So it's kind of opposite of the cortisol. Cortisol goes low, melatonin goes high in the evening. That's what we want. Melatonin goes low in the morning, cortisol goes high. That's what we're all looking for here. So these hormones impact all the other downstream hormones, as I mentioned. So thyroid, sex hormones. Melatonin is vital for leptin to dock to the hypothalamus, and we need the leptin to dock to there for multiple different reasons. And that's important so your energy, appetite the next day are appropriate. And if that doesn't happen, so if we're having like a bunch of sugar before bed, if we're having too much cortisol in the evening, that's not going to happen. Satiety, energy the next day are going to be an issue. So that's something we do need to keep in mind. We want a nice gradual rise of cortisol in the morning, steady decline during the day, so that when we're ready to sleep, cortisol does not block the release of melatonin, as I was just saying. And then your master hormones, again, those are on the 24-hour clock. That's the circadian rhythm. Here's the chart I keep referencing too. Take a picture of it, and that should be the foundation of your day. This is what we want, guys. This is what we're looking for here for a healthy, optimal human. Melatonin and leptin are also, melatonin, master hormone. Leptin, that's another master hormone. They run the show, and the whole idea here, again, is just to get a second look at this chart, see how that's all kind of influencing this. We want to plan an optimal day here, so I'm going to give you guys the foundations on how to do that, and that's all going to be backing this chart here, everything that I talk about here next. We're going to learn about cortisol a little bit more and some other hormones, and then we're jumping into the optimal lifetime daily routine. And I titled this video, it was more about seasonal living, and to be an optimal human, and when the seasons are always changing, you got to understand the circadian rhythms, and optimizing that year round is what's going to help you adapt to the different seasons that we're exposed to. Whether that's summer, spring, fall, winter, all of those 4 seasons. Some people don't get all 4 seasons. Some are just in a forever 24/7 tropical rainforest, and that's awesome for them. So I hope those people can take a little bit of something away from this video still. I live in Michigan. I'm above the 33rd parallel, and we're at a higher latitude, so I get all 4 seasons. And a couple months out of the year, I do have to deal with the cold temperatures. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more. So this is a good video for you guys, for anyone here really. It's all depicted on light. Cortisol. This is one of those hormones, comes at the beginning of the day, wakes us up, right? So it's the wake up hormone, rises in the morning. This is just a better chart to look at. It should be low at night. We don't want jolts of energy at nighttime. If you get that, that usually means you're doing something wrong. So it's going to boost our energy, sharpens the focus, helps with mobilizing fat. It's also a blood sugar or a blood sugar stabilizing breakfast with the first morning UVA light that helps put the brakes on the cortisol. And the brake line would be about right here. We don't want cortisol to go like insanely high. We want to kind of have it come down to a break. And we also don't want it to shoot up first thing at 6 in the morning. We want it to go up nice and slow and then have a break a couple hours into being awake. And this is also kind of controlled by getting first morning light, and then also having a nice high protein breakfast. Leptin, that is another hormone. They call it the satiation hormone, but it tells your brain that you're full and that you're safe to burn fat, make sex hormones, thyroid hormones, get pregnant, whatever that is for any of those individuals. It does multiple things. It's not just a satiation hormone. Peaks at night, lowest in the morning to signal hunger. So we want leptin to be low in the morning so it can signal hunger. If you're not hungry in the morning, usually means you're not eating within the first 30 minutes to an hour, or you're running on stress hormones. But as you'll learn here, I am a huge advocate for eating within the first hour upon awakening. You also need darkness and consistent meal timing to have optimal leptin. And then to know if you're disrupted, if your leptin is disrupted, usually it just means that you're going to fluctuate with weight constantly. So losing a bunch of weight and storing it, having a hard time getting that off, constant hunger, and then the poor sleep. Insulin, another huge hormone. A lot of people are talking about insulin resistance. So insulin sensitivity is something that occurs more so in the morning, and it kind of declines throughout the day. So most people are eating carbohydrates all day, don't really think about this, but you're most insulin sensitive when the sun's out at the beginning of the day. We're more insulin resistant in the evening. We don't tolerate sugar as well. We can't transport it to the mitochondria in the cell because the insulin receptors are not as prominent then. It just takes a little bit longer. There's a little study here that was referenced in this, but I think eating carbs at the beginning of the day is also a little bit sketchy. So as soon as we wake up, don't want to have a bunch of carbs. You can have a small handful of like berries or some yogurt or something. I think that could be a good breakfast. But we just want to go lower carb for breakfast. Lunch can be more of a higher carb meal because that's when we're most insulin sensitive. And then in the evening, you want to stay away from heavy loads of carbs again. I recommend just doing more keto in the evening or kind of following what you did in the morning with a small amount of carbs. Let's structure your life. Build the perfect optimal morning - day. It starts with the morning routine. So I'm just going to be reading off these paragraphs here. So you want to catch a few minutes of the sunrise before any other light hits your eyes. So that means no phone, no TV, no computer, no Fox, no CNN, no newsletters. Get outside within the first 30 minutes at the beginning of the day. Stay away from LED lights. Seek the actual real stuff, not the fake crap. So you can use the red light panels if you really feel like you can't get outside for the sunrise. I just think it's a really optimal, fun thing to do at the beginning of the day, catching the beautiful red light, the infrared, the UVA, the thing that doesn't tan you. That's the ultraviolet A, does not tan you. It's a really amazing morning ritual. You can sit outside with your breakfast, book, whatever that may be. Have a nice slow morning. And that's going to turn off melatonin and then turns on the cortisol switch. That's determined on the UVA and then those red lights I was just telling you about. Sunrise is between 0 and 10 degrees. I think as long as we're getting out between 0 and 30 degrees on the horizon, that's going to be the most beneficial for getting an optimal morning light pattern. So you can measure these things on the My Circadian app or Circadian. Those are both on the App Store. And I'll show you guys a little bit more of how that works. Doesn't matter if there's trees, buildings, clouds, if there's rain, still get outside. The light signal is huge. Your skin takes in the light signal via the melanopsin process, and then your eye, that's also going to take in light. So take off the glasses, take off the sunnies, take off the contacts, get outside, get that amazing light barcode in the eyes. And these are just my pieces of advice if you feel like you can't do any of those things that I was telling you about. Definitely stay away from glass windows, though. You can use a cracked screen door, any of those things, and then just utilize the yellow-red glasses, which I will show you. So this is the My Circadian app. This is the Circadian app. These both are similar, so pick your poison. You can track UV, tells you how much vitamin D you're making, log your sun sessions, tells you when sun rises 24/7 for your geological location, and then tells you when the sunset is, tells you when the ultraviolet lights are out, tells you when UVA comes out, tells you when UVB comes out. Very interesting stuff. The lux meter on the My Circadian app is really nice too. You can determine how much light you're getting in your environment, in your room. Start off your day with a nice big glass of clean, structured, mineralized water. Our body starts to become dehydrated overnight. We're burning off, we're detoxing, we're burning off different calories, and we're becoming very dehydrated and burning off the electrolytes, the things that give the cell the electric charge. So you constantly need to be filling up on those electrolytes. Just find a clean one. That I would stay away from some of the big ones like liquid IV. I recommend like Redmond Real Salt or Baja Gold Sea Salt. I'm just adding a pinch of salt in the water. If you want something flavored, I think some of those brands like Designs for Health have a really nice electrolyte on the market. So yeah, start off your day with that. A couple ounces from, I would say like 15 to 30 ounces is going to be the best bet. Eat breakfast. Don't skip it. So don't intermittent fast in the morning. Intermittent fasting is okay. Just do it the opposite way of what most people are telling you. Food is the second circadian signal besides light. You need to have something in the morning for breakfast. Okay, that is huge. That's a kickstart to the 24-hour circadian rhythm. So I'll keep referencing this over and over again. Eat your meal within the first 30 minutes to 1 hour of sunrise. Go for low carb, protein, fat. That's key. I usually do ground beef, eggs. Sometimes I'll do like sausage for breakfast, like a beef sausage or chicken sausage and eggs. And then I'll do like low glycemic fruits, so like a kiwi, blueberries. That's a good way to start off the day. Olives, I'll do those sometimes. Cheese, any of those. And then the more you do this, it's just going to help mold your wake time every day. They call it phase shifting. You're just going to have an easier time getting up. You're going to get the hunger signals. It's crazy. It only takes about a week, 2 weeks to start getting hungry after you start eating breakfast every single day in the morning. And then if you eat breakfast in the morning, when you're outside, you're getting the light too, it's going to help you become more leptin sensitive. It's going to help you ultimately with appetite correction, the hunger signals, weight loss, all that amazing stuff. It's not the weight loss community has been misled. A lot of people are taking these insane intermittent fasting, calorie deficit protocols, and of course it works for some, but it's starving your body. That's not what we were hardwired to do. This is a more optimal way of doing it. Weight loss, metabolism, those things are determined by leptin, because this is a cheat code most people don't know about. So If you start listening to my protocol here, you will see results within a couple of weeks with your energy, metabolism, etc. Quick pointer, coffee, that's something you do need to watch out for. My big tip is understand your genetics, make sure that you can metabolize caffeine, you don't get anxiety or any of those weird hangovers, and then have it within the morning hours, so 90 minutes after awakening, so you don't mess up your cortisol spikes. And then, same thing with, like I said, decaf, but go for mold-free, toxin, heavy metal-free coffee. There's a couple good brands on the market. I don't know them. I don't drink coffee. It's just something to look into because it's got a long half-life and it's grown in a very particular area in the world. Not a lot of safety testing on it. This is breaking down more why we need to get outside in the morning, not just sitting in front of a window. It's because UVA, UVB, that stuff gets blocked by windows. UVA especially, that's a huge one. It gets blocked, and then some of the visible light passes through, but again, it's not very optimal for the body. It filters out the full color spectrum. So ultimately, we want to be getting UVA, UVB, red light, infrared light, green, yellow, blue, all these different beautiful color spectrums. We want to get all these in the full sequent amount from the sun when we're outside, not in isolated wavelengths. So UVA, UVB, those are bad, quote unquote, because the studies they did on them, they were in isolated form. It was just UVA, it was just UVB at long periods of time, and that will cause cancer. It will cause diseases in people if these things are isolated, if these things are separated from all the other color spectrums. It makes total sense. Even like using the popular red light panels, red light therapy, I'm a huge fan of those things, but it's just when you use them for too long, for hours and hours and hours, maybe in one day, then that's when things start to go haywire in the human body. Same thing with UVA, same with UVB. So everything in moderation. So another thing to help with circadian rhythm is, and leptin, is going to be using contrasting therapies or just trying to get cold or hot therapies in your environment. So it's one of the secondary circadian signals. So we talked about food already. That's a secondary signal. Light is also a secondary signal. We want our body temperature to rise gently in the morning. That's usually stimulated by that breakfast we talked about, UVA, and a blood sugar-friendly breakfast specifically. And then a little bit of cold can be helpful. That'll increase the body temps, and you can do that by jumping in an ice bath like this. Freezing cold. You can also dunk your face in a bowl of water. Cold shower. Walking outside in the wintertime can be good too. But this is known as full body immersion. All of them are good. Pick your poison. And this is more of the opposite approach here. So warm therapies. This is something good to do before bed. I don't recommend doing sauna because I think it's more of like a workout in some sense. It's a cardiovascular workout if you're in there for a long period and you're really, really sweating. Do it in the mid hours of the day, late morning. Don't do it right before bed. A warm bath is a little bit different because it's not going to necessarily create a cardiovascular workout. You're still going to get the heart racing a little bit more. Blood vessels will be dilated a little bit more. But it's to the point where it's not going to cause you to have a disrupted sleep cycle in any sense. It's going to help promote the flow of melatonin just because of the cool down in the body temperature. So movement, that's a fantastic way to help signal to the circadian rhythm. So exercise, first thing at the beginning of the day, I do not recommend. That's just to do with that whole cortisol hormone too in the morning. Leptin can also be affected by that. Do it in late morning. Anytime past 9 in the morning typically is best if you're waking at, say, like 6 in the morning. So do it a couple hours after awakening. Do it a little bit later in the evening, afternoon. I think the latest you should probably do it is maybe like 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock if you're going to bed at 10. I wouldn't do it any later than that. Again, if we're really, really hard training, there's an issue with cortisol. If you're just doing walking, if you're doing yoga, you can do those things any time of the day. Stretching. I do my walks in the morning. I eat in the morning, my breakfast, and then I take a little cold plunge, and that usually does it for me. If you guys really want to eat in the evening too, don't recommend it, but if you're going to have something, just have a small snack, specifically like fat, something that's not going to spike the insulin. That's going to be the best. And you could do like ghee, tallow, butter, stuff like that. Evening routine. So how can we optimize this? Trying to keep the food a couple hours away from bed. So that's like the reverse intermittent fasting I was telling you about. 3 to 4 hours away from bed is best. Insulin will compete with leptin for the docking space in the hypothalamus. So the thing that is going to stimulate the pineal gland to make melatonin, the thing that's going to make the pineal gland secrete that. That's something that needs to be accounted for. Insulin will block the leptin in melatonin. That's what I'm trying to say here. Blocking blue light, that can be really helpful in the evening, so keeping the lux below like 10. And I just say take it back to the Little House on the Prairie era and use a candlelight, but I get not everyone can do that. So use like a blue light blocking glasses set, recommend those. Use like a warm color spectrum of light, so the red, yellow, anything like that, orange. Trick your body into think you're looking at the fire. Stay away from the devices, the phones, anything that's emitting non-native EMF. And that's just to do with the pineal gland that can sense. It can see the non-native EMF. It can pick up on the light around you, the visible light spectrum. And then that'll create an issue with cortisol if it's not taken care of. So the TV, the media in the evening, don't recommend it at all. Even if we're using blue blockers, some of those things can create a circadian rhythm mismatch because your skin takes in the light signal too. So you can try and use color filters on your phone. The Iris technology, there's a software you can download on a computer that turns everything red or gray. So I'd play around with the color filters if you really need to check your emails or your phone in the evening. These are the glasses I'm referencing. Red glasses, yellow glasses. You usually use these at the beginning of the day. Use these at sunrise, sunset. And I've got all the different protocols here. If you do decide to get these, I like Raw Optics Block Blue Light. That's a good brand. And you can go to my website, noblenaturopathics.com. I do have like a section where I've got my glasses recommendations with the discount codes. But it's a good little investment you can make. It definitely helps. It's not like the end-all be-all, but it helps. Here's the candlelight I was telling you about. So that's going to be the most optimal. It's the gold standard. It's not going to disrupt the circadian rhythm. I use a candle in my room when I'm reading before bed. It's honestly kind of a fun thing to do. You can also use like those red light clips, anything you see online that's advertised as nighttime light, red light, that's going to be optimal. And you can check your environment on the app. You want to have it below 10 lux, so you can measure that on the My Circadian app. just to make sure you're in a nice, dark, optimal bedroom for a deep night's rest. Here's my additional tips. I think the most healing thing is going to be the sunrise and sunset. So you can get your eyes in the direction of the sun, so don't look directly into the sun. You can look in the direction, you're still getting some light in the eyes and then on your skin. And that's going to be really, really helpful for your vision. If you have myopia, if you have the circadian rhythm imbalance, even just looking at the sunrise, sunset for a couple of days will bring you back into the alignment with the Earth's rhythms and the circadian 24-hour clock. If you wear glasses, take them off. I told you in the beginning. Sunrise and sunset, use them to your discretion is what I kind of am referencing. If you have to walk and go see the sunrise and sunset, wear your glasses there. Once you get to that location, take them off and then try and get the light in your eyes. Or get a good pair of glasses that's not going to block the beneficial light rays, or contacts too. You can use a brand like Dailies. That's another good option where you can still get the light to penetrate through the eye. And we're getting into the whole seasonal eating side of things here. So we're looking at summertime, the wintertime, how to optimize our eating environment. Just check something. Okay. When it comes to our health, use your intuition and common sense over everything else. Everyone has a different tolerance to certain foods. Everything should be personalized. Work with a practitioner who's knowledgeable on this and get the most optimal diet for you. This isn't nutrition, this isn't medical advice, but you should know food does contain a light code, and your diet should definitely try and be based on eating seasonally. So, support your mitochondria through light and dark cycles, sunlight, cold exposure, grounding, nervous system support. Those are going to be the most important foundations. Seasonal eating is going to be on the list, but those things, you cannot replace these. That's why I said it's a foundation. Seasonal eating can support circadian biology. So every single cell, organ, body system has a circadian rhythm, your gut, your hormones. When you align the nutrient intake with the body's natural rhythms and the mitochondrial function, you're going to see the most optimal results. So the seasonal eating will depict all those things. Food does contain information about the time of day, time of year. So that's what I mean by food is a light barcode. It signals to the cell. Use your discretion on what you're eating. Obviously, in the wintertime, if you're eating whole foods over a bag of Doritos or Tostitos, Ruffles, it's going to be way better for you. And then the whole idea behind all of this is just eat with the seasons, see what's growing in your location within a 4-hour span, 4-hour driving radius that has a similar climate, and eat more carbohydrates in the summertime because that's what's prominent in the soil, and there's a higher amount of light in UV. In the wintertime, we do more cellar stable fermented foods. So yeah, support your farmers, go to the farmers markets, join a farm herd share. Any of those things can be helpful. Makes sense ancestrally. If you just look at how humans have lived for the past thousands of years, we've been hunters and gatherers. We can store some food, we can't store everything, which is why we stay away from like mangoes, bananas, pineapples, watermelons in the wintertime, because those aren't really shelf-stable things. If you can ferment things, you can do more grains in the wintertime, that makes more sense because they're shelf-stable. meat can be eaten pretty much all year long. I'll get into it a little bit more here. Hormones, microbiome, thyroid, sex hormone, those change seasonally because of UV. Ultraviolet. So food does contain a light coat in the environment. It's the most optimal signal for the mitochondria to interpret and use. The UV index must be high to grow a simple sugar fruit, which is why we have those pineapples, bananas, mangoes, and berries inside of the wintertime. They're higher in deuterium. I'll get into that a little bit more. But the UV does determine the simple sugar fruits. When the UV is low, usually below 5 in the wintertime, we don't get simple sugar fruits. We get hardly nothing. It's a season of a reset. If you're talking about Michigan, it's different in other climates, but you might get more green root vegetables or um, green leafies, any of those different things when the UV is a little bit lower. Usually when we're from 6 to 10, that's when simple sugars come out. Fall is going to be more like squashes, shelf staple foods, things that can stay in a cellar for a long period or turn into a ferment. Tropical fruits, stay away from them in the wintertime. They give off that wrong barcode from 6 to 10. You do want to stay away from those tropical fruits unless you're moving to Florida, unless you're going to a lower latitude like Costa Rica, Mexico. And that's just due to deuterium. It's a heavy hydrogen isotope. Okay, it's not good, it's not bad, it's what's needed to sustain life. It's just a player in telling your body what time of year it is. If we're getting too much of it, if we're doing the wrong fruits, the wrong veggies, wrong diet, the wrong time of the year, deuterium can build up, it hurts the mitochondria, ages you quicker, it causes some other chronic diseases here. But UV is going to deplete deuterium, so the foods that have the most deuterium are high carb foods, and what depletes it is the UV. It's the red light, cold plunging, grounding, deuterium depleted water. The most important one is UV though. So when we're eating high carb stuff in the summertime, it gives us that genetic light, that light barcode, and then the deuterium will get depleted naturally just from the UV. It's high carb foods have deuterium in them. Meat and like fats, some of those things have deuterium in them too, but it's just a much lower content to the point where it's not going to hurt you. Plants that rely on the UV light have more deuterium in them. So summertime we do the high abundant carb foods. Don't worry about that too much. And of course, if you have like a medical condition, it's always going to be different for you. What we're talking about here is just the foundations of health, where you want to be if you're in a disease-free state. Winter is more rooty vegetables, sweet potato, any of the tubers, carrots, ferments, pickles, stuff that can stay in a container for a long period of time. Warm stews, warm spices, warm up the body a little bit. If we're talking like the spring, you can do more of those green leafies. Still kind of want to remain low carb for a little while. Grains can be good. They can also be bad. I just say remove, of course, the pesticides, find a clean source of grains, and then soak ferment them. That's the best way to remove anti-nutrients. And you can get more information on that on Weston A. Price's research. So there's a little bit more of a foundation. Depends on the latitude, location, where you are. You can see what's seasonal on this amazing application, which I will show you here in the next few slides. Fats, go for them all year round. You do more fats in the winter though, more animal fats specifically, like heavier amounts of fatty cuts of steaks, meats, ground beef, bone marrow, fish, butter, ghee, and lard. You can do more of the plant-based fats in the winter or the summer, so avocado, coconut, those are good options. Eggs and milk, you can do those all year long. Of course, you're going to have more nutrient-dense options in the summertime. So the milk, eggs, those are going to be little bit better inside of the spring dash summer due to animals starting to mate to give birth. The grass becomes green, so they have um, more nutrients and more things to eat, bugs, different stuff like that. That gives those animals a little bit more of a nutrient density. And you can eat like cream. You can do the butter, cheese butter, stuff like that in the wintertime. Milk, just as a little piece of advice, you can do more of that like the summer. Really, all of these you can have all year round too. So Russian Voss, German sauerkraut, kimchi. It's like a Korean dish. You can do those all year round. Um, I recommend doing it more so in the wintertime though, if you're trying to eat seasonally. Um, Low carb options, good for the gut. It's not going to have high amounts of deuterium in the body to throw off the mitochondria. Thanks for listening. I've got a lot of different things to talk about on this field. Like we could have easily branched off and talked about seasonally eating more, light seasonal environments more, um, deuterium and leptin, all the hormones, all that stuff's amazing, and I will be making more videos and classes on it. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, check that out. I do have a practice in Clinton Township, Michigan, and I am seeing clients. So contact me if you have any questions on that. If you need high quality products, full script carries, designs for health, Thorn, pure encapsulations, Metagenics, a lot of really high quality brands if you do need a supplement. And I just wanted to show everyone the seasonal food guide. It's a cool website. So seasonalfoodguide.com or .org. So let's go with Michigan. Let's go with, I'm recording this in August, early August. And then you just press any produce. It just tells you what's in season in Michigan at this time. This is what you should be eating year round at certain times of the year. Okay, it's a lot of more higher carb stuff, leafy greens. If we go to December, this is wintertime. As I told you, we're doing more root vegetables, things that have a long shelf life. So pick your state, pick the month, pick the produce, whatever it may be. That'll give you a great idea of where to look at things. All right, thank you for tuning in here. I appreciate everyone for watching, and take care.